The weekend is near, which means Duke basketball is almost back with their official home opener for the 2025-2026 season. Pretty impressed with that win that Duke had earlier in the week against Texas. Now an opportunity to continue to build on some winning habits and keep the winning ways alive.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man. The Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. Thanks so much for being here with us today on Friday, November 7th, 2025. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. And on today's show, this Friday's show, we'll dive in and we're going to talk about everything happening in the life of Duke basketball with the big-time win over Texas most recently in the Dick Vitale Invitational to open up the season. It's been fun reading all the comments on our YouTube page the last few days, how fitting it was that we've got Dick Vitale here opening Locked On Blue Devils, and Duke just opened up the season with a great performance there in the Dickie V invite. So we'll break it all down. Micah Powell, Donald Wine is back with us once again from Duke Basketball Roundup to talk about everything happening with Duke Hoops. So we'll get to him in just a moment. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Also, make sure that you watch us each and every day on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like this video. Share it with your friends. And as always, comment down below. Let us know if you're an everydayer. Let's keep the conversation rolling in the world of Duke basketball. So, without further ado, here is Donald Wine joining us on today's show. Good to see you once again, my friend. It must mean that basketball season has arrived. And I know you and I are both excited to have this thing back in our lives.
Well, it's great to see you. It's always fun to be on this show, and you're right. This is the best time of year. Basketball's back. Cannot be more excited.
Yeah, we've got a 15-point victory to talk about. It's a good one to open up the season with Duke's win over Texas. Saw a couple of impressive exhibition wins for the Blue Devils as well. And you look at kind of taking the step in the right direction to open up a new season. Year 4 of Jon Scheyer. Looks like the defense is off to a really good start. I know that he was talking about after the game just how impressed he was already that this team is dialed in defensively. And you look at the previous 3 season openers under Coach Scheyer. Duke started with Jacksonville, Dartmouth, and Maine. A little bit of a step up in competition, but good to hear the head coach still pleased with the defense.
Yeah, I think it was the 26th straight season opener win that Duke has had. And if you consider the fact that for 5 years, the Champions Classic was the opener.
Right.
So the fact that we had that streak is incredible. And I thought they played very good the other night against Texas. Obviously, there's things to work on. It's the opening night of the season. We've seen throughout the preseason that they've taken some licks. They've taken some haymakers from some of these teams, and they've gotten off the canvas. And to borrow from boxing, they've gotten up off the canvas and fought back. And you've seen the surge in the second half. And I know Jon Scheyer immediately after the game against Texas said, yeah, this is a great win. I'd rather we, not have to fight back in the first half. I'd rather us get out to a better start. But that's what the season's about. And that's why he's scheduled these type of games to concentrate on opponents that you could see in an Elite Eight, in a Final Four, in a national championship final. And to get there, you have to learn how to play against these teams. You have to learn the physicality. You have to learn what it's like to fight from behind, what it's like to do other things when you're not having a good shooting night. We've learned a lot from this team in the first couple of weeks of the preseason and the first regular season game because of the fact that we schedule some great opponents.
Yeah, super excited to talk about this defensive effort for Duke. And, it's taking a step up against a Texas team where Duke held them to just 32% shooting overall on the game, less than 30% from the three-point line. I thought forcing 16 turnovers, but what was most impressive to me, it just felt like Texas didn't look comfortable at all on the offensive end of the floor. And I guess there's an argument to be made for every team. It's the first game. You've played a few exhibitions. You're still trying to work into a rhythm, and totally agree with that. But I do think there was a concerted effort defensively for Duke as well to make sure, all right, these guys, we don't want them taking any shot that they're comfortable with.
I agree. And you've seen that in, especially again, the second half of a lot of these, of the two preseason games, and even the other night against Texas, just the intensity ratchets this up a little bit. It's clear that they have some halftime adjustments. They have taken a little bit to ease into games. I won't say ease in, but to start games, they've had a little bit of a slower start than they probably have wanted. But at halftime, they are making the adjustments. And I think it goes back to just on the pressure or on the ball pressure. Jon Scheyer talked about that in the press conference after the Texas game, where he said that the times that we had great on the ball pressure, they couldn't do anything. It was the times that we kind of backed off that they were able to get into the lane and maybe make something happen. So I like the fact that, you had guys that Caleb Foster, I thought, had an incredible second half defensively. Yeah. Dame Sarr, his athleticism and his speed. The fact that he was, there was times where he was on the baseline essentially on offense. Texas gets the ball going the other way, and he's the first person back down on defense. It really made it where Texas had to ease up and they had to reset their approach to that particular possession, but that allowed our defense a chance to get set. And when our defense was set, forget about it. It was tenacious. The fact that we're looking at Texas scoring only 60 points and it's worry for them to get to 60. I'm going to like this if we're going to have games where we're trying to figure out how many times we can keep a team under 60 points. Because if you're keeping a college team under 60 points, 90 times out of 100, you are winning that basketball game.
Yeah, you said on-ball pressure, and I can't help but think about last year's Duke team that, of course, went all the way to the Final Four, top 5 in the entire country, offensively and defensively. And thinking of on-ball pressure, already in my head, I'm just seeing flash images of Sion James and Tyrese Proctor picking up their guys full court, making sure things are as difficult as possible. That appears to sort of be a principle that we saw against Texas. And to your point, if you see Caleb Foster and Dame Sarr take pride on that end of the floor and want to apply kind of full court pressure and make things as difficult as possible for the opposing ball handlers, at some point, I'm sure we'll see Isaiah Evans jump into that category. But early, it's clear that Foster and Sarr are taking that ownership with these guard responsibilities defensively.
Yeah, I agree. And I would also throw Maliq Brown into that. I know Maliq, you returned to the floor for the first time since April. But I think on my show, I called him the Tasmanian Devil because when he comes onto the floor, defensively chaos ensues. Like the other team just does not know how to handle Maliq Brown being in the lane, on the wing, in front of you. They don't know how to handle that. And the reason why he's able to get so many tips and disrupt so many passes is because of the fact that he can thrive in the chaos and make it where the other team just does not know what to do. And the last option they have is to do something stupid, which is throw the ball away, take a bad shot, or just put it in a position where we could get the steal and go the other way. Now, was he a little bit overly aggressive? Sure. 5 fouls. I'm sure he doesn't want to foul out of games, but I like the aggression that he showed. And again, a lot of those times it may not have led to him directly making the defensive play, but it led to our team making a defensive play. And I think that's where, all of these connective pieces on defense, similar to last year. I won't say they're the same, but similar to last year, you want to have a team that's tenacious on the ball and it causes a lot of problems. And then behind the ball, you have people who can cause chaos and make it where all you got to do is just throw up a prayer and hope it goes in.
What did you think about the defense around the rim, with that being the point? I know at the end of the game, you can highlight the foul trouble that, in the last 5 minutes of the game, within 71 seconds of one another, you saw both Pat Gongba and Maliq Brown foul out of the game against this Texas team. What did you think about Duke's pressure defensively around the rim?
I think that's going to be something that is good, but will continue to get better throughout the season. Sure. I think most people underrate Pat Gongba as a rim protector because he didn't have to do it as much last year. He's going to be called upon to do that a little bit more this year. And you saw there's a couple times where he got the block, but he also had a couple shots that were altered because of that. But the way that he alters it, if he does get a block on it, he blocks it in a way where one of his teammates or himself can get the ball and go the other way. He's not throwing it 10 rows into the stands, which I personally enjoy.
Yeah.
But I think it's something where he knows that getting the block is one step of that process. Getting the rebound is the other step. I think Texas really hammered us on the boards in the first half. And in the second half, I thought we were able to do better, mainly because Cam Boozer, entered the game and decided that it was his game in the second half. But I think more and more you're going to see, I want to see that start a little bit earlier and allow a little bit more help on the boards, because inside, if our on-ball the pressure fails, you don't want that to be, well, we're giving up 2 points. We want that to be, that's just the first step of your process now. And now you have to meet our guys at the rim, and you're going to lose that battle too.
Well, then in all of this, you don't want the foul trouble to
correct.
And I feel like if the on-ball pressure is not at a good spot, there's more of a temptation to build kind of lazy habits and that sort of thing. And that's where those fouls can add up, because the front court depth is real. It's something that we will talk about, I'm sure, this entire season, given injury histories of some of these players that Duke's got in the front court, and then just volume of actual players that Duke has in that unit. Got to make sure the foul trouble is not an issue we're talking about throughout the year.
Absolutely. And I think, first game, you're a little bit more aggressive. It counts this time, and you're taking all that practice that you've done over the summer out on somebody else. And sometimes that's you get a little bit over aggressive. I think I'm not too concerned about those two.
Finally, another team that we get to play defense at. Yeah.
Right. And you get a little happy in the paint. But I think the fact that Maliq Brown entering Duke, when he came from Syracuse, one of the big beats on him was that he does foul a lot. I think he averaged like 8 fouls per 40 minutes entering Duke. And last year that was limited quite a bit. Now, was he on the floor as much as he was at Syracuse? No. But I think the idea is, when you're on the floor, Jon Scheyer wants them to be aggressive, but it would help if they were able to stay out of foul trouble, because I think if there's any depth issues, it is at the big men, because Maliq Brown basically is the only main sub of the rotation that could come in. And as you saw, when Gongba fouled out, we had to go, air quotes, small, which is 6'9", 6'8", 6'7", 6'5", 6'5". Great problem to have, but I'm sure that's not what we were looking for.
Yeah, you're spoiled when you think back. Mark Williams, Lively, Malawach. I mean, all the big interior presence Duke has had. That's not there, but there are still huge, massive players in Gongba and Brown in their own right. So with that said, next up for Duke, they've got a stretch of some winnable games before they get back into the Champions Classic. So we'll kind of take a look at that, dive into this next stretch coming up for Duke when Locked On Blue Devils continues. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Do you need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Supply House is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, here we go. Locked On Blue Devils. I've got Donald Wine from the DBR podcast with me today, talking about this next stretch of games coming up for Duke now. After Duke scores 75 in their opener Saturday, we'll see the opener at home inside Cameron Indoor when Duke takes on the Western Carolina Catamounts. Veterans Day, they'll be at Army in West Point. And the next Friday, 1 week from today, we'll see Duke at home again against Indiana State. What's kind of the big goals, your big picture for Duke as they get ready for this stretch?
I think working on those basics. And I think the one thing that I want to see improving through these next 3 games is the confidence on the offensive end. I think entering the season, most people thought that the defense was ahead of the offense, and we saw against Texas that is probably true. But I think the offense is there, and of course we have guys who can light it up at a moment's notice. We've seen Cam go for 30. We've seen Cam go for 20 and 20. And we've seen Slim hit 23. He was the leading scorer. on night one. I want to see the offense continue to improve and thrive, because when we start out, we don't have to start out fast, but if we start out good by making our shots early, that puts so much pressure on the other team, and that's where our defense can thrive, because we know that if they have to worry about tackling us defensively for 40 minutes, they're already in trouble. So I want to see the offense improve. I want to see some of these guys who we've counted on or heard that are going to be counted on to shoot the ball, to start shooting it well, getting some open looks on offense, getting them early, working on shot selection. That's one thing I thought was a little shaky against Texas. And I think that's really where I'm looking at, is to increase the confidence, because right after this stretch of 3 games, we get right back to murderer's row, with Kansas, with Arkansas, with Florida. You have the brotherhood run kind of sandwiched in between there. But I think that's where they need to do, is the offensive sets, getting more comfortable with that and finding positions on the floor where they can score.
Yeah, I mean, go a game further. The midweek against Florida, and then that Saturday you're at Michigan State. I mean, it is going to be a crazy, crazy stretch for Duke coming up here. I know that Scheyer pointed this out after the game, and it's certainly something we've seen in the exhibitions as well. But the slow starts offensively, it's awesome, again, that your defense has been locked in right from the get-go. But that's clearly an area where I don't know what it is. We'll continue to kind of watch it these next few games and see if we can start to identify it. I know that is a big focus right now in film sessions, in practice for the Duke team, but kind of being away. Hey, as soon as the ball goes up in the air, let's get into a rhythm. Let's find easy looks, I think, to get it going. Think about the second half. Duke found a way to get Cameron Boozer to the free throw line right away to see the ball go in, and Duke goes on that 10-0 run and puts the game away. Texas, I know they got back within 3, but never took the lead again once Duke got the lead back right out of the gates in the second half. So better starts offensively, certainly, I think, in this next stretch of games has got to be a focal point.
Yeah, and I think most people mistake slow start for like points, right? And, if we're not scoring 10 points before the first TV timeout, then that's a slow start. That's not the case. I think the idea is getting great offensive shots, getting people involved. As you mentioned, like, I don't think Cam Boozer really touched the ball until 5 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
And of course there was that night, first night, for lack of a better word, jitters that, we didn't expect him to have, because we saw what he did in the preseason. And again, he's allowed to have that. That's his first official game as a freshman. He's allowed to have those jitter nights, and same with the other freshmen who were a little helter-skelter at times. But I think it's about making, again, sound decision with the basketball, getting the ball, working it to your stars that are going to be pacing you and scoring, getting them involved early. Because I promise you, if you get the ball to Cam in the post the first couple minutes of the game, he's not going scoreless in the first half. He gets the first basket, he gets the jitters kind of go away after that point, and then he's seen it go through the basket. Same with Slim. When you saw Slim finally go on that run, that spurt where he had 9 points in 4 possessions, you could see his confidence continue to grow, and that kind of blossomed around the team. So I'm looking to see all these guys get involved early. Everything that they're doing, Caleb Foster to be aggressive early. I want Cam Boozer to get touches early. I want Big Pat to figure out a way to get involved. And then there's got to be someone who can create when we're inside of 10 seconds. And Jason and I on our show kind of talked about the fact that there's no real person yet who is able to grab the ball with 12 seconds left, call for a pick, go to the hoop, and make something happen.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that we don't have it on this team. It just means that needs to be cultivated, and through that, these next 3 games, you'll hopefully have opportunities where you'll have late shot clock situations, late, half situations where you can go, okay, give me the ball, get out of the way, call the pick, let's go score. You stay in the corner, because if I can't go to the hoop, you're open in the corner.
Such a good point, because even last year, early in the year, Cooper Flagg wasn't the initiator with 10 seconds on the shot clock that he was at the end of the season. And I think with anybody, practice and experience is going to help you kind of improve and perform better in those spots. So Isaiah Evans, though, man, it's nice to have that flamethrower on our team, and super lit. It's obviously a guy that we talked about so much in the offseason, how big it was for Duke to get him back, to not go to the NBA, to not transfer out of Duke. And here's another big stretch of games coming up where we could start building the case for Isaiah Evans to put together an unbelievable season for Duke and continue to be a part of the national conversation. Right now, the headlines with Duke are Cameron Boozer, and I'm excited for more games, more data points for Isaiah Evans to let the world know I'm a part of this too.
Cam Boozer won the inaugural PT Peer Award
right.
for the Dick Vitale Invitational, but I honestly think it probably should have been Isaiah Evans, because Slim was, again, start to finish was great. Once, like I said, he had that burst in the first half, and there was a point where you knew if the ball was in his hands, something good was going to happen. And as a sophomore, the leap that he has to show, the night one, check. Like, he did that. He was able to show that he can improve. He's showing that he's more than just a 3-point shooter. Now he's going to shoot in volume. And he went 4 for 8. There's going to be times where he's 4 for 10, 4 for 12, 5 for 13, whatever that may be. And it feels like the coaching staff will be happy with that as long as it's in rhythm. But once he gets into that rhythm, that's where a lot of Duke fans are really excited about him, because you saw, the other night when he's in rhythm, very few people are checking him. He had guys in his face, and he was like, doesn't matter, shoot the shot over you, and I'm going to turn to my bench and celebrate as the ball goes in, because he was that confident with his shot. He also did it with twos.
Yep.
Saved the dunk at the end of the game, but he was also getting to the rack, and he was also going to the free throw line. So I like the fact that it was a more well-rounded game from, despite the fact that we're expecting to see more volume from him from beyond the arc.
Yeah, no, definitely the shot diet. We talked about it. 82% of the shot attempts last season were 3-pointers. So if that number can go down a little bit and you can get more looks around the rim, his cutting was much better. I know there was the play underneath where, pump fakes to create a little bit more separation and then is able to lay it in. And like you said, final bucket of the game, a right-handed punch from Isaiah Evans there at the rim. And we want to see a ton of those throughout the course of the year. So
we need that earlier in the game.
Yes.
Jon Scheyer said we need better starts. Slim, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Right, just to show them you mean business.
All right, so we got a big 3-game stretch here for Duke to kind of build some of those winning habits, and it starts on Saturday, a home game against Western Carolina. Also on Saturday, this Duke football team is off to a pretty fun start. So we'll take our last time out here on the show and then get set to wrap things up when Locked On Blue Devils continues here in a moment. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at DoorDash. Almost the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it all down. How about for Duke football, just the offense's ability to deliver in such a big way, mounting the win against Clemson 46-45 as Duke goes for 2 at the end of it. Players specifically delivering for this Duke football team. Let me give you the numbers on Quayshawn Brown. 6 catches, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns receiving. When the pressure was on, Quayshawn Brown came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Quayshawn Brown is on a streak, our newest guy to join the club. We've already had Nate Shepard, Darian Mensah, Cooper Barkay. Welcome to the DoorDash streak party, Quayshawn Brown. And just like he's been delivering for Duke football, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays this fall. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Promo period through November 18th. DoorDash, a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Okay, here we go. I've got Donald Wine from the DBR podcast. This is a man of many talents and someone who is just as locked in on this Duke football season as the rest of us. What a fun year it's been to watch so far. What a wild, wild race we find ourselves in, and sending 2 teams to Charlotte to compete for the ACC championship. But with Duke's impressive win on Saturday, first one in 45 years there in Death Valley, it's good to be a part of that ACC title conversation.
Did you see, I don't know if you do Vegas odds in your show, but Duke is currently the Vegas favorite to win the ACC championship in football. Let me say that again. Vegas thinks Duke is going to win this thing. And I think it's incredible that we're in that conversation. And when we lost to Georgia Tech, or entering that Georgia Tech game, I mentioned that, we want to be in that conversation at the end of the season. And if we lose the Georgia Tech game, you will probably need some stuff to happen for that, because going to Clemson is just a hard task. Well, they went and achieved that task, and now they have thrust themselves back into that conversation. Do they still need help? Sure. But I think when you think about this game coming up against UConn, the funny thing is you want this to continue to be prepped for the biggest game left on the schedule, which is UVA next weekend, because that right there could really change a lot of dynamics when it comes to tiebreaker situations, if a bunch of teams are tied with one loss in the ACC. So I'm really excited that this team has put themselves into this position after the slow start to the season. We're talking about teams with slow starts.
Yeah.
They took some tough L's against Tulane and Illinois, but they learned from them. And they, the fact that the Georgia Tech game was a winnable one, I think they learned from that. And I love the fact that they got 2 weeks off to prepare for this Clemson game. And with all the history that was on top of this game, going to Death Valley and winning for the first time since 1980, they had to play a game that was apparently a game for the ages. 91 points scored, a 2-point conversion. Dabo's going wild on the sidelines for stuff that didn't happen. That it's fun. And I like, again, these guys looked Death Valley in the face and said, we're not scared of this team. We're not scared of the stadium. We're not scared of the history. And they went out and made their own, which I think is terrific.
It was so fun to watch, man, and just the team rallying around everybody and making the plays down the stretch. And you're right, with 3 games left in the season, or 3 ACC games left, I should say, the UConn game this weekend as well. Duke's right there in the hunt. Our friends at FanDuel, Duke plus 240 to win the ACC, Georgia Tech plus 310, Louisville plus 340, and then Virginia plus 380 again over at FanDuel to get in on the action there with Duke football. The defense, I think at this point in the year, the number of injuries, man, at some point, it's like, can we catch a break with the guys that are going down? But what has been incredibly impressive, the number of freshmen that are just stepping up, stepping into action, or guys, Cooper Barkade is a name we've shouted out all the time. This guy was playing for Harvard, and now he's stepping up in the midst of a big title run here.
I mean, you can see that he's a smart player and he gets into the right positions, and somehow he also has witchcraft, because on that touchdown, he decided to figure out a way to make sure that Clemson forgot about him and that whole entire side of the field. I said this, I love the shot of, it was in the end zone and it's pointed at Cooper Barkade when he's catching the football. You could see that the entire Clemson sideline throw up their hands like, who's got this guy? Like, and then they pan out. You're like, oh, the answer is nobody, because me at home was closer to Cooper Barkade than any Clemson player on the field. But I think, again, we have some big playmakers, and the coaching staff, Manny Diaz, has done a great job at recruiting some of these guys through the portal. Darian Mensah has been, I don't know, more than advertised. He's been exceptional this year. He's throwing for a lot of yardage. I think he's second in the nation in pass yardage per game, and he's doing it without turning the ball over. I think that's the big deal, is we're winning the turnover battle. Or again, earlier we had some hiccups, but
yes, indeed,
the fact that we're winning the turnover battle every week is keeping us in these ball games, is giving us great field position, and we're making big plays. They have this graph that shows like basically number of big plays and how that affects the game. And we had so many big plays that basically the graph said Duke was the team that should have lost the most last weekend, but they didn't. They're the only team on that other side of the graph that won their game, because their big plays were coming at crucial times. Fourth downs, man. Fourth downs were incredible. So I think, again, we'd rather than not get to fourth down, but the fact that we have that in our bag, that we can remain confident and remain poised under pressure, that's how you're going to win championships. That's how you're going to get to these opportunities to play for championships. And I think we hopefully continue that this weekend against UConn, and not regress, knowing that it's a game that, for all intents and purposes, doesn't matter for that race.
So UConn is bowl eligible, 6-3, and it's an opportunity for Duke to become bowl eligible with their 6th win of the season. UConn's already played a pair of ACC schools, a win over Boston College, lost in overtime to Syracuse. All of their losses took place in overtime. When you look at Syracuse's 3 losses, or excuse me, UConn's 3 losses on the year so far. One of only 2 independents remaining in the entire sport. It's UConn and Notre Dame. Fun to think about them in the same football conversation there. But the only UConn point I want to make there, Donald, is last time Duke played at UConn was in 2023, and the Huskies had won Mr. Cooper Flagg on an official visit as Duke won that football game 41-7. So hopefully we're set for similar vibes in UConn this weekend.
Yeah, who's coming to the game? Is there any recruits that we need to steal?
Bring them in. Bring them in.
Yeah, I think they should have a whole recruitment day. Bring everybody out, and then that way we'll have the confidence to go in there and beat them, and then steal some recruits in the process.
Yeah, no kidding. Donald, this has been so much fun being able to talk basketball and hear a little football conversation at the end. Tell us about the DBR podcast, how people can follow along and support you.
Yeah, we are at DBR Roundup or Duke Basketball Roundup, Duke Roundup on Twitter and Instagram and Blue Sky and everything else. But we are full into the season. We just had a season preview, one game late with Jordan Brenner, who's been on our show quite a bit. JJ, we're going to get you on there at some point this season. I know Jason has talked about that, and we have a nice little round of guests that come on, and we preview and recap every single game that Duke has. And Duke football is also part of the equation. Duke women are part of the equation. They unfortunately took the loss out in Paris, but I think they're poised for a bright season and cannot wait to
win the ACC.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great. It's the best conference in women's basketball, in my opinion. They have a murderer's row schedule as well. Kara Lawson and Jon Scheyer apparently had a meeting of the minds and said, this year we duck no smoke. And so it means there's a lot of quality basketball, but to take that next step for the Duke women, it means they have to play some of these teams like South Carolina, like an LSU, and beat them. So now that they're, they saw what it could be like to possibly get to within arm's grasp of the Final Four. Now they know who they need to beat to break through that barrier. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, really fun. You win the ACC tournament last year for Duke women's basketball, and then this year going into it, you're picked to win the league. The benefits of that high expectation. So super excited to see all that play out. Go support the DBR podcast. Donald, as always, man, it's good to see you. We'll have to do this again soon, okay?
Absolutely, JJ. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's Donald Wine joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, and that's going to bring our show today to a close. Thank you so much to everybody for your support. As always, for Locked On Blue Devils here, I will be in the building tomorrow for Duke's game against Western Carolina. So excited to see all the Duke fans out there supporting them, and hopefully Duke football can put together a big win on the weekend as well. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you again on Monday. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.